Good evening and welcome to the Monday, July 27th, Maplewood City Council meeting. I had the pleasure, along with many staff, especially Public Safety and City Manager Sabo, to go over to the groundbreaking over at St. John's. We did the whole golden shovel thing. And it was really a very impressive groundbreaking for those of people who, well, if you drive by St. John's, you're going to know that something is changing, because I believe by the end of this week, I think that main parking lot in the front of the building is going to be gone. They're going to be putting up a new building there. They are going to be adding sufficient emergency room bays and maternity ward bays and additional beds, so that they are actually increasing the size of the hospital by more than 40%. I was speaking with the administration over there. They are going to be adding enough emergency room bays that they will have 50 emergency room bays. I think that they have like 22 right now. So they are more than doubling their emergency room. And then they are doing the same thing in terms of their maternity ward. And of course, we know that 2 years ago, I think, was over there for the ribbon cutting for the cath lab, which is the very significant heart cath lab that used to be down at St. Joe's. And when they closed St. Joe's, they brought it out to St. John's. So over the years, we have seen St. John's Hospital change from what used to be a little community hospital to what's called a tertiary hospital. And it's certainly, they're able to do very extensive heart procedures, open heart surgeries, those kinds of things, which truly is a benefit to our, not only Maplewood, because it's here, but also to our region. So that was really very fun. You can look online. There's a lot of pictures out there, everybody with those golden shovels. Pretty exciting. The timeline that St. John's is looking at is to have this, and they're doing this in phases, but to complete this by mid-2028. And of course, what they have to do is they have to run the hospital, serve patients, have emergency vehicles come into the hospital while they're also doing a significant addition to the hospital. So stay tuned. We're going to be in construction over there at St. John's for the next several years, but it is all going to be worth it. So thank you, St. John's, for investing in Maplewood. We really appreciate it. It's going to be a great benefit to our community. So with that, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk Sint, would you do the roll call for us, please?
Councilmember Lee.
Present.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
Here.
Councilmember Cave.
Here.
Councilmember Juniman.
Here.
Mayor Abrams.
I'm here as well. Thank you very much. Council members, would someone like to make a motion to approve our agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Cave, seconded by Juniman, the motion to approve our agenda. Any further discussion? I will say that what we need to do, City Clerk Sent, correct me if I'm wrong, we need to amend G7 and G8 with the new additions. Is that the proper way to do it?
Mayor and Council, so G7 and G8 had incorrect attachments. The reports were correct and the motions are correct.
Right.
So
Do we need to do anything recognizing that the attachments?
I
Okay,
no.
we're good. All right. Then in terms of presentations, I want to add a ribbon cutting at a new assisted living over on County Road D that just happened. Let's see, we have council members, Councilmember Lee.
That was the same. Yours should cover mine too, so
Okay.
we're good with that, Mayor. Thank you.
Council member, I didn't see who's next. Councilmember Juniman.
National Night Out.
National Night Out, and Councilmember Villavicencio, sorry. You're next.
Memory of Gigi Monk.
I'm sorry, what?
In memory of Gigi Monk.
Okay. Thank you. All right. With that, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Next, we have the approval of our minutes from June 22nd, 2026, the city council meeting minutes. Would someone like to make that motion?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Lee, seconded by Cave, the motion to approve the minutes from June 22nd, 2026. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Abstain.
Oh, Councilmember Juniman, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up. Councilmember Juniman abstained. Thank you. Next, we have the July 13th City Council Workshop meeting minutes. Would someone like to make that motion?
So
Move
moved.
approval.
Sounds like Kathy.
I'm going to guess. Okay, we'll go with Councilmember Juniman. Cave, would you like to
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave. The motion to approve the July 13th, 2026 City Council Workshop meeting minutes. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next, we have administrative presentations, our council calendar update. City Manager Sable, this is your topic.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. We are reaching the peak season of summer activities, and so I will not reference National Night Out because we'll hear about it later, but we do have a number of things coming up. We will need to schedule a special meeting for canvassing the election. So the election will be on August 11th. We will need to canvass. We are targeting Friday, August 14th. There is no specified time frame in our schedule, so it can be in the morning, it can be in the afternoon. I would just caution to say I don't expect a 7 p.m. Friday night meeting. We would anticipate that this meeting will be about 6 minutes in length. Historically, 2 years ago, we had a meeting, I think we picked either late morning or early afternoon, and so what I would like to do is to generally have the mayor poll the council of like general preference. We do not need all 5. We do need a quorum, so we need a minimum of 3, and so we will let you work together to pick a start time.
Councilmember Villavicencio, we'll start over here. What time would you like to, or would you be available on, is that that's a Friday?
It is a Friday, August 14th.
I'm fairly flexible that day, but I prefer early afternoon.
Okay, Councilmember Lee.
Thank you. Morning or early afternoon works for me that day.
Okay. Councilmember Juniman.
I'm flexible.
Okay, and Councilmember Cave.
Morning?
Okay, so, and I would prefer the morning as well. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 that would make it for the morning. Could you? Would that do? Okay, so Mr. Sable, what time would work?
I'm going to look at City Clerk Sint and say,
Council, Mayor and Council, so to give Ramsey County a little bit more time in case they need something, what about 11? Does that work?
That can work?
Yeah.
Okay, 11 o'clock on August 14th.
so thank you, Mayor and council members. We will schedule a meeting to canvass the primary election results at 11 a.m. on Friday, August 14th, and we will notice that accordingly. Also, I want to put on your radar, so we do have our preliminary tax levy and EDA levy adoption on September 14th. The next thing I want to do is I want to forecast 3 very robust conversations that we will have in the fall. They will be workshop items. One of them will be a deeper conversation about the community center and scenario planning for if this happens, then this, and if this happens, then that. So we'll have to talk through some scenarios about that. We know that we are going to be in receipt of the Maxfield housing study about housing in Maplewood. That will be a very long conversation about what that report says and its implications for us. And then the last item that I want to have as a workshop item is a meaty one and timely this year, which is what is the city's appropriate role in supporting large community events? We have had a record number of events with tens of thousands of people. It puts which is great. We want people to want to have celebrations in the community. It does put some additional burdens on our staffing resources. So talking through what makes sense going forward so that we're consistently treating groups equally and fairly and also supporting them where it's appropriate. So I look forward for 3 robust workshop items. And with that, I'll have an opportunity to talk about our community events later, but it is important that we talk about that. So we're getting into the busy season for the council, so stay tuned.
Thank you very much. Anything else for Mr. Sable? Okay, then, as mayor, it really is fun to get to go to ribbon cuttings. And I have to say, we have a new assisted living facility that is opening up over on County Road D. Council members, you might remember that this, I think it came before us, I think several times. There were some starts, some stops, and I'm happy to say that it is completed. It is beautiful. I think that there are 20 beds at that assisted living facility, and I think it complements very well the life cycle housing that we have been working at trying to bring into Maplewood. And so it really was a very fun event, and we've got a new assisted living place in Maplewood, so congratulations. And it's a beautiful new facility. If you have a chance, please stop by. I'm sure that they would welcome you walking through it. I think it's always fun serving on the council that when you get to see the building that we actually approve, when you see it all completed, that's really, I think, the secret sauce of serving up here on the council. So anyway, thank you for that. Next, Councilmember Juniman, National Night Out.
Well, I can't believe it. It's the countdown time for National Night Out. It is a week from tomorrow night, Tuesday, August 4th. You have until, I believe it's Thursday of this week to register your party, so you still have time to organize your neighbors and have a party next Tuesday. And we're all going to hope it isn't as hot as it is now. So please register your party and get together with your neighbors, Tuesday, August 4th.
Thank you. Mr. Sable, do we know how many parties have already registered?
I'm going to make eye contact with Mr. Sheeran in the audience. I know that we were above 50 as of last week, and so I would expect that we'll be in that 60 party range. And maps will be distributed hopefully on Friday.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you for that. Councilmember Villavicencio.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to take a real quick second to acknowledge Gigi Monk. As some of you probably learned about her death, as a part of the Disability Pride Month, I'd like to take a moment to honor the life of Gigi Monk. She was not only a disabled mom and a friend of mine, but she was a member of the disability community here in Minnesota, and her life was tragically cut short. Her passing reminds us that every disabled person deserves to live with dignity and to fully be included in the life of our community. I also want to recognize and thank the Maplewood Police Department for their professionalism, their compassion, and their respect for responding to this tragedy. And I just would like to say, may Gigi's memory strengthen our commitment to building a community in Maplewood where disabled people and all types of people are truly welcomed, have equitable opportunities to thrive, and know that they belong here.
Next, we have the 2025 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. Mr. Rube, this is your topic for the night.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Over the past 6 months, the finance team has been working on audit work papers and the financial statements for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025. Our auditors from Bergen KDV are very involved with reviewing all of our work. During the audit process, the auditors meet with the finance department, city manager, and then the council audit committee to discuss any potential financial issues or just the city's financials overall. Tonight, council is being asked to accept the reports that were included in the packet and then the annual comprehensive financial report that was provided separately. And if you would like a physical copy of the annual financial report, and we can certainly provide that if you like. With that, we have Andy Grice here from Bergen KDV that will present the audit results.
And Mr. Grice, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, well, thank you for having me here tonight. Here to present the audit results for the year ended December 31st, 2025. Do have a PowerPoint slide, here we go, where I wanted to highlight our independent auditor's report included in the city's financial statements. The city is required by state statute each year to prepare financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The city is also required to hire an independent auditor to provide assurance as to whether those financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. And happy to report that based on our audit, we're able to issue a clean or an unmodified opinion on those financial statements, which is the best that we can give as your auditor. We also provide a report on government auditing standards. That report talks about our consideration of internal control over financial reporting. We are required to provide in writing any deficiencies that come to our attention that rise to either a significant deficiency or material weakness level. We did have one finding this year at a material weakness level, and that's a lack of segregation of accounting duties. And that relates to just the number of folks involved in the financial closing and accounting processes within the city. The last report that we have is a report on Minnesota legal compliance. The Minnesota State Auditor's Office does issue legal compliance guides each year that include certain state statutes that are applicable to Minnesota cities and requires that we report any non-compliance that comes to our attention as part of our audit procedures. And during our disbursement sample, we did note an instance of payment being made outside the standard payment period. So we did have one compliance finding related to that. We also have our communications letter that includes all required communication in accordance with audit standards, also provides some emerging issues for new accounting standards to be aware of here in the future, but also includes our financial analysis that provides some trend data and some financial information for the city to highlight here. The first chart highlights the general fund revenues over the last 5 years. And so comparing 2024 to 2025, we did see about an 8% increase in overall general fund revenues. The majority of the increase occurred in taxes, with an increase in tax levy here for 2025. We also saw an increase in intergovernmental revenue as well as investment revenue. There were some additional grants as well as camera reimbursement and violent crime unit funding, increasing that intergovernmental grant category, and then better market conditions, which provided an increase in investment income here for 2025. And that was offset by a decrease in licenses and permits with less building permit activity, and then a decrease in charges for services with the related decline in planned check fees that go along with that building activity. The next chart highlights the budget to actual results for general fund revenues. So City Council did adopt a budget that called for $28.8 million in general fund revenues and transfers from other sources, or transfer from other funds, excuse me. And actual amounts came in at about $30.9 million. So that was about 8% more than anticipated. The majority of that occurred in that intergovernmental category. There was more police aid than anticipated, also fire aid that passes through the city that's not accounted for in that budget that's adopted there, and then investment income coming in better than anticipated and being conservative, given that's volatile activity that can be volatile activity from year to year. Looking at the makeup of general fund revenues and where those sources are coming from, majority still continues to come from property taxes at about 79%, again with the increase in levy this year, followed by intergovernmental revenues and then licenses and permits. The next chart highlights general fund expenditures here for the last 5 years, comparing 2024 to 2025. We did see about a 10% increase. We did see increases across most categories there, with increases in wages and benefits. Public Works also saw an increase with an increase in repairs and maintenance costs, but mainly due to wages and benefits and filling positions causing the increase for 2025. Looking at the budget to actual results, basically right on budget overall, just a 0.4% variance. There was some categories up above there that did come in better or come in less than anticipated, which did provide for some additional resources for transfers to other funds, and then certain activity needing to be recorded in a debt service category in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, so seeing some offset there, but overall just a $109,000 variance. In terms of where those general fund expenditures are being spent, the majority of it goes to that police function at 47%, followed by Public Works at 18.5%, but overall very consistent between the 2 years. Looking at the overall general fund operations, revenues continue to exceed expenditures, and as a result, we did see an increase in the unassigned fund balance. There's also a use of restricted and assigned resources, which contributed to that as well, and that resulted in an increase in that ratio down below in terms of fund balance as a percentage of the year's revenues. We also take a look at that unassigned fund balance as a percentage of expenditures as a measure of financial health, just in terms of cash flow and reserves. The Office of the State Auditor recommends between 35% and 50% in that category for financial health, and at the end of the year, that ratio was at about 73%. Next, the graph here highlights the tax capacity levy and rates, and with the increase in tax levy this year of about 15%, and a lesser increase in the overall market values or the tax capacity, which is tied to market values within the city, that increasing about 3%. There was an increase in the tax rate from about 44% to 47.8% here in 2025. The next few charts that we have here highlight the city's enterprise funds. These do present differently in that these are full accrual funds, so you do see different terminology like operating expense, operating expenditures, and includes things like depreciation to give users the full picture of the cost associated with providing these services. The ambulance service fund has continued to show operating losses, and it is at the greatest point in the years presented at an operating loss this year of about $1.9 million. City Council has established a property tax levy to assist with providing resources for providing that service. However, it is reaching a point where the city should consider that activity governmental activity, as the fees are not sufficient to support covering those operating expenses, and is really a heavily subsidized activity that we would recommend accounting for in a general fund or another governmental fund going forward. The next chart highlights the environmental utility fund. This fund has continued to provide operating income. There was an increase in revenue and operating expenses this year, but continued to have positive operating income of about $1.4 million, so just a small decline comparing to 2024. The recycling project fund also continued to provide an operating surplus. This year was at $101,000 compared to $291,000 back in 2024. There was an increase in operating expenses due to increased collection costs, also an increase in supplies, but again, continued to provide positive results. Next fund here is the sanitary sewer fund. This fund has also shown very consistent operating results, did provide an operating surplus here of about $723,000 compared to $623,000 back in 2024. And then the last enterprise fund is the street light utility fund. Also very consistent operations here over the years, did provide operating income, positive operating income of about $135,000 for 2025. That's a highlight of the financial results as well as our audit reports. I'd like to thank Joe, the rest of the finance team for all their help during the audit process this year. And next, I'd just like to open it up for any questions.
Are there any questions, council members, for Mr. Grice? I don't see any. Then there is a motion for us. Someone like to make that motion?
I motion to accept the Maplewood 2025 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report.
Second.
Moved by Cave, seconded by Juniman. The motion to approve the 2025 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. Is there any further discussion? Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Mr. Sable.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I want to thank Joe and his team for doing this work. I know it comes every year, and I know it's a heavy lift, but you guys do an incredible job. And to Mr. Grice, I love findings because it's an opportunity for us to get better. And so when we do something incorrectly, I want it to be front and center. And then next year, when we fix it, I also want to acknowledge that. So it is both things. So I appreciate the relationship that we have. You're good, you're thorough, your team is lived here for a couple of weeks, it felt like. And so we are grateful for the service and the professionalism that you give, and so thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you. Moving on, council members, we have the consent agenda, items G1 through 9. Would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve G1 through 9?
Second.
Moved by Lee, seconded by Cave. Motion to approve the consent agenda, items G1 through 9. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on, we have a unfinished business, a resolution awarding the sale of general obligation bonds. Mr. Rube, are you going to set this up for us?
Yes, Mayor.
Or
Thank you.
Mr. Sable?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. On June 22nd, Council approved the pre-sale of general obligation bonds, Series 2026A. The bonds will be used to fund part of the 2026 street improvement project, as well as the Harvest Park Phase 2 improvements. The initial bond amount was $6,275,000. However, when the bonds sold today, they came in at $6.1 million, which is good. We're getting the same amount of money, just for less. And it included a premium offering. The true interest cost of these bonds is 3.5946%, which is less than what was originally estimated, which is also good because it saves the city some money. Before the meeting tonight, I handed out an updated resolution that has the actual figures from the sale today, as well as a sale day report from Ellers and the current S&P rating report that reaffirmed the city's AA+ rating. Staff is asking council to approve the resolution before them, selling the general obligation bond series 2026A in the amount of $6.1 million. And tonight we have Brian Riley from Ellers here to discuss the sale day report.
Brian, good evening. Welcome to the council meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council and staff. Good to be with you all this evening. If I could, for a moment, I was just reminiscing with your staff when I was here. I actually grew up about a mile from here, and while I'm a son of St. Paul, I spent much of my formative years in Maplewood. Really enjoying the mall, primarily as a teenager, but went to school presentation, spent many a weekend at East Winds Babe Ruth, and so it's always great for me when my professional life intersects with my personal life, and so the city certainly has a dear spot in my heart. So it's great to be in front of you all, so thank you for the time. Mayor, if it's okay with you, I would entertain questions as I go throughout the presentation.
Certainly.
Very good, thank you. Just to give you a high-level detail and walk you through results from today's sale. Good segue from the discussion on your financial standing as of the last fiscal period, because things like this don't happen unless you are fiscally sound and you have your house in order. To Finance Director Rube's point, bids for purchase of the bonds were due, I believe, 10 a.m. this morning. 9 bids were offered. The best was from Raymond James out of their Florida office. And so you did get a good amount of national attention today. 9 bids is very strong, and there are different ways to offer bonds. You have a strong history of competitive sales, and has really served you well. I think this is a great test case for the benefits afforded that method of sale. As was mentioned, the transaction was really structured, previously put out to bid, as I talked about. We'll go through those here in a moment. There were some adjustments made. You got the final results from Finance Director Rube. You're just under 3.6% top to bottom on the issue, $6.1 million final amount. We were able to move a few numbers around to garner a few more construction dollars as well, even at a lower dollar amount. All right. Moving on, I'll walk you through the bid tabulation, and you can just get a flavor for who expressed interest in your bond sale this morning. And again, you got very good representation from dealers across the entire country. And when I was speaking to the value you achieved through the competitive sale, I'll just point you to the winning bid, unadjusted at 3.589%. With the next best at 3.74, and every other bid is really clustered around that 3.75% interest cost. And so you had a buyer today who was very interested in your bonds and was willing to bid through that, basically give you a higher price to the tune of about 15 basis points or 0.15%. And that truly is tens of thousands of dollars over the life of an issue like this, over its life. So that really speaks to the fact that you carry high credit quality, and people understand the general obligation pledge in the state of Minnesota, which is very strong. So there was some differentiating factor in terms of that AA+ credit, which we'll talk about here in a moment. The next few pages have lots of numbers, of course, and I'll just mention briefly that by and large, on the day of sale, we have the opportunity to kind of adjust based on the actual pricing, and we really brought the transaction back into balance. So the average annual debt service in total is nominally less than where you started, and so everything came in better than what you saw at the pre-sale discussion. And then I'll try to focus my time a little more on the rating. I'm sure you have some interest there, getting a sense as to how an objective observer in the form of S&P looks at you from a credit perspective. And as you read through the language, just understand that to them, you're a little bit of a number, right? So they do get into the details through looking at various bits and pieces of information. There's about an hour-long conversation over the phone with staff to walk through financials, economics, economic development activity, and make sure they're seeing things clearly so they can present to their team internally to arrive at the credit rating. But when they compare you, they're comparing you nationally and not just to your Minnesota cohort. So some of the language in there will very much speak like statistical information, and that's what it is, comparing you to thousands of other municipalities of various sizes, cities, counties, other states have townships and villages that are roughly equivalent in size. So it's a national point of view. I like to generally focus on the things that are directly in your control when we speak about the rating. There are factors in here that are, to some degree, at the margins, maybe you can influence over a very long span of time, but by and large, they're not entirely in your hands, this council's hands or the future or the next council after or the one that came before it. So again, there are areas of interest where you do express yourselves and working with your staff, and a lot of that has to do with the financial function. And so that's where I'll spend my time and certainly entertain questions as we go through. And so I think you just heard a good bit of this from the Bergen KDV team in terms of very strong reserves. Those reserves are like a shock absorber. Things change at the state and national level frequently. You've seen that the last couple of years. And then going back at a state level a number of years ago with some of the slashes in state shared revenues, so intergovernmental aids. And so ultimately, those are a buttress to your strong financial position and give you a lot of latitude and flexibility when making financial decisions in terms of how you fund things, whether it be the annual budget or your capital projects. And so having those strong reserves is really something that helps you build to that AA+. Not just having them, but also a long history of preserving those balances. The policy framework that you have in place is a strong foundation, and really, policies outlive people. And so having that framework really puts you in a position of success so that over the course of time, people can continue to manage to that framework going forward. There's really a consistent theme about strong budgeting practices, not just on an annual basis, but really year over year, and using that framework. There's a strong degree of transparency between staff and the governing body through monthly budget to actual conversations, so that you have your finger on the pulse of the city's financial condition and can react accordingly. They do speak a little bit about liabilities, but I would argue for a city of your size, what they're pointing to is not that onerous and burdensome. And in fact, things like this debt issue, for instance, you're financing long-lived assets, but you're paying this debt issue off over 15 years. And as a result, if you're paying something off 15 versus 20, the annual payments have to be more. While that would normally be a logically good thing, sometimes it's viewed as a net negative from a credit standpoint because it requires higher fixed costs. But practically speaking, those decisions tend to pay off in the long run. You're paying less in interest, and it allows you to find ways to kind of backfill towards the back end of the structure. You're going to have more debt at some point, right? And so you need to continue to invest in yourselves as a city, and so I wouldn't view that as being a material weakness from the standpoint of the city's credit perspective. You understand those decisions, you all play a role in those, and you should run your organization for the benefit of your constituents, not necessarily to a rating outcome in that regard. So I'll pause there and see if there are any questions after my statements, and happy to answer those.
I don't see any questions. We have a light system up here, so I can see if anyone needs
Very
to
good.
ask something.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you. Well, council members, that was an excellent report. Mr. Rube, thank you to your team. Thank you to our staff. When you hear things like strong reserves, strong budgeting practices, fiscally sound, our house is in order, high credit quality, and the fact that we had 9 offers on a bond is pretty remarkable. It says that we're headed in the right direction, and we are very responsive, I think, to our residents. We take their money very seriously. So thank you to staff, and thank you to the council for getting us to this position with the AA+ rating. We have, if there's no questions, we have a motion. Would someone like to make it? It's on page 289.
Motion to adopt the resolution relating to $6.1 million general obligation bonds, Series 2026A, authorizing the issuance, awarding the sale, fixing the form and details provided for the execution and delivery thereof, and the security therefore, and levying ad valorem taxes for the payment thereof.
Second. Oh.
Moved by Cave, seconded by Juniman. The motion as written in our packet, updated packet. That way I don't think I have to repeat that again. Yeah, that was a lot. But I'm sure Ms. Sinta's got all that. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next, we have new business, our residential recycling and trash request for proposal. Mr. Love, are you going to tee this up?
Sure, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we're joined by Sean Finwall, our Sustainability Coordinator, who's been leading the creation of the request for proposals for the trash and recycling. And with that, I will turn it over to Sean for her
you.
presentation.
Sean?
Thank you. Madam Mayor and members of the council, thank you for hearing me tonight. Tonight, as you heard from Mr. Love, we'll be touching on the residential recycling and trash request for proposal. So our current contracts cover both residential recycling and trash and yard waste. For the recycling, we contract currently with Tennis Sanitation. They collect the recycling from single-family and multifamily homes, and their contract expires June 30th of 2027, so next year. And then the trash and yard waste collection, which also includes bulky item collection, is covered by Republic Services, and they cover just the residential single-family properties, not the multifamily. And that single-family homes include homes that are 4 units or less. And their contract also expires on June 30th of 2027. So the contracts expire at the same time. So now it's time to turn to getting new proposals for this contract. The term of the contract that we're proposing is for 5 years, as written in the proposal. And in your packet, you were included an RFP packet that includes the RFP body that details the proposals, the forms, which would include things such as a price worksheet, the drafts of residential recycling and trash contracts, and of course, those are based on our existing contracts and will be used kind of as a starting point for negotiations. And we propose to release this, if approved tonight, on July 29th, which is Wednesday, and then we would allow for 4 weeks for the haulers to put together proposals and submit that on August 26th. So the RFP does detail 3 alternatives that haulers can propose on. First is a bundled trash and recycling. Because those 2 contracts come together and expire at the same time, it allows an opportunity for the city to bundle those contracts into one hauler if possible. So a hauler can propose on that. And then in the RFP, we have written in these value-added items. So a hauler has to propose on the base RFP, but then they can also propose on these value-added items and get extra points in our review and evaluation criteria. So one of those is recycling billing after agreement year 1, and you likely know that the City of Maplewood adds the recycling fee to the St. Paul Regional Water Services billing currently. So this would allow for an opportunity for the hauler to take over that billing, as it, does cost the city money to add that fee to that St. Paul Regional Water Services bill. And it can be somewhat confusing to explain that to residents, that you're getting one bill from trash and one from, that's included in your water bill. And this would only work for a bundled contract, as then they'd be doing both the billing. A more efficient handling of bulky items. So currently, it's a per item, per fee-based bulky item collection. So you would call Republic Services and you'd schedule the collection of, let's say, an old couch or something, and they would charge you a certain fee and then put that on your bill. Well, what we're saying is we're looking for more alternative ways of collecting bulky items, such as allowing residents to have 3 items for free a year. A lot of contracts are written in that regard. So other creative ways of collecting those bulky items, which are always kind of a challenging thing in our community. Increased textile recycling. So right now, our recycling contractor collects clothing, but they want to take clothing that is reusable, such as shoes and children's clothes, things like that. So I'm always getting calls for residents that are looking for a way to recycle items, like a shirt that maybe you wouldn't want to wear anymore. It's just not in good condition. But where can we recycle those textiles that get made into, rags or whatever? So alternatives there. Reduce contamination at multi-buildings. So multifamily is always a challenging for recycling because, it's got shared space. You have a lot of turnover in these buildings, and we find that there's always a lot of contamination. So we're looking for some creative ways to reduce that contamination at the multi-buildings. And then alternative fuel vehicles. So really looking at meeting our greenhouse gas reduction goals and looking for ways to do that in our trash and recycling, which of course those vehicles are running up and down our streets 5 days a week. So then the other 2 options include just the trash only and then just the recycling only. And as you can see, those value adds are also added to those items similar to the bundled. So moving on, I just wanted to touch on a few new items. So that recycling billing I had mentioned. So this we would be looking at making that change after year 1 because, just starting a new contract in and of itself can be challenging. So working with St. Paul Regional Water Services to transfer the bill to the contractor, working on that and building that in after year 1. The yard waste, we had quite a conversation on this with our Environmental Commission, and throughout the years I've heard from many residents. There's a lot of different things to consider. Right now, the yard waste is collected April through November, and the hauler supplies the carts. It's collected once a week. However, it's a subscription, so you opt in, but it's a yearly fee. So whether you opt in on April 1st or whether you opt in July 31st, you're paying that yearly fee. There's no prorated fee. So we'd really like to look at doing billing monthly so that, when you opt in July, you're only paying July and moving forward. And there was a lot of other discussion about, should it be included for all single-family homes, and then there was the challenge of storing carts and how some people wouldn't need the service. So we chose to keep it at that subscription service, but again, billed monthly. And then the recycling carts, looking at this once again, Ramsey County does offer that cost share grant, so the city really should consider that. And we are looking at getting pricing for both city-owned and contractor-owned recycling carts. So those are the new items that I wanted to touch on. And then to move forward and give a little bit more information on the carts, you likely know that the city of Maplewood purchased the trash carts back in 2012 when we organized our trash hauling, and those are currently managed by Republic Services. And so the yard waste carts, under the current contract with Republic, they own the yard waste carts, and then they manage those carts as well. And we would propose to continue that in a new contract. But then the recycling carts, currently Tennis Sanitation owns all the carts that are out there. They rolled those out in about 2014 when the city converted to recycling collection in the bins to the carts. And they manage those, replace them, and what we would look at now is just to evaluate purchasing of those carts so that we can have a fair analysis so that Ramsey County Public Entities Grant would cover half the cost, and we did kind of a rough estimate of the cost of all the carts for single-family homes, multifamily homes, and then dumpsters too, because there are multifamily properties out there that have recycling dumpsters. And we estimate that would be about $780,000. And so the grant would cover half that cart purchase. And as an example, North St. Paul took advantage of that, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, and Roseville rolled out carts last year and took advantage of that grant as well. So moving forward, when we get the proposals in, we have a proposal review committee set up, and that includes 2 environmental and natural resource commissioners, city staff, county staff, and then Foth Infrastructure and Environment, the county's public solid waste consultants. And I would like to thank the county and Foth for their work on this RFP document. It was quite extensive, and so their assistance, this technical assistance, which was offered for free to the city of Maplewood, is very much appreciated. And we came up with this criteria to kind of rank the proposals once the committee meets. We start with relevant experience, references, and capacities, just a pass-fail there. And we thought that pricing and economics this day and age really should carry the most weight. So we would rank on the cost of both the trash, recycling, yard waste, and bulky items. And then environmental and safety, we added these 2 things together, and we combined them, ensuring that haulers that are proposing have adequate working conditions and safety procedures in place, and then also that they're looking at our environmental goals such as the greenhouse gas reduction goals. The proposal content and overall responsiveness at 20%, so that's mainly accuracy and clarity. Qualifications and past performance, you know, the strength of their qualifications in working for other cities. And then those value-added options that we had referenced, so we'll be ranking on those as well. So with that, we are working towards a year-end kind of adoption of everything. So we're looking at the release of the RFP on Wednesday, as we had indicated. Then 4 weeks later, those proposals would be due. In September, we'll hold those proposal review committee meetings and interviews with the top 3 haulers. October 12th is the date we're looking at to bring back to the City Council the rankings from our proposal review committee and have you authorize working with those selected haulers on the finalization of the contracts. And then you can see the negotiations, and then hopefully finalize those contracts on November 23rd. And if that fails or we need additional time, we do have that one extra date. And then finally, with that implementation, we have 6 months from the beginning of the year to July 1st. So this is the time frame that we would look at the carts, and of course, we put out an RFP for carts. and work on rolling those out and getting everything else in place prior to the contract start date of July 1st. So tonight, we are requesting approval and authorization of the release of the residential recycling and trash requests for proposal, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to take a quick minute to thank you for this very thorough package. And just looking through the proposal evaluation criteria, I think that's a very fair process. And I really appreciate the fact that safety has been added, is in there as a component. Touring one of the facility, I think safety is a big piece of it for us. We want to make sure that as we're throwing things away, that the people on the other end processing our stuff are also in a good condition, working condition. So I really appreciate that, Sean. Thank you.
Mr. Sable, you and I talked today about the proposals in terms of kind of when the council gets involved. In the past, we've had a council member that has been on the RFP team. But instead, you and I talked about an alternative. Do you want to?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor and council members. So as you know, there's a kind of a fixed universe of providers of this service regionally. There's just not a lot of competition because the barrier to entry, it sort of creates, I don't want to call it a monopoly, but monopoly-like characteristics because you have to have so much infrastructure. So the barrier to entry for a company is fairly sizable. So we know the universe, with the likely known universe of people who will respond. And I know that in the past, a council member had served on the RFP evaluation committee. And so what I am going to propose instead is that at the August 26th date, that we also then provide you the full RFPs from all of the people that we see. So you'll get a chance to see all of the pieces. Now, the committee can still develop a recommendation, and I think that's appropriate that they do so, but the ultimate decision will be the council's. And so you can choose to go against the recommendation of the committee if you see elements that you would potentially weigh differently. So we'll give you the full spectrum of what has been received, and I'll forecast that you'll have a lot more reading than you maybe would have anticipated, but we'll try to provide a kind of a summary of what those things will look like, because not everybody wants to read a several hundred-page document about recycling and trash collection, but I did want to provide that opportunity. So in the month of September, you should expect to see these elements in there, and then as outlined in the schedule. Multiple opportunities to connect with and to provide some feedback and input in that. So this is, as you know, a complicated issue in the community, and people have very strong opinions. And so, right, and there may be some more math involved on your end. So I think that's maybe the cleanest way to have more council input early on, is to see all of the RFPs as they come in.
I appreciate that. I think, this is for a contract for 5 years. And so I think it's a really good opportunity for the council to really get in and get a good understanding of what's being proposed. So, council members, there is a motion. Would someone like to make it?
Motion to authorize the release of the request for proposals for residential recycling and trash collection.
Second.
Moved by Lee, seconded by Juniman. The motion as written in our packet. Would someone like to, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Look forward to reading all about trash and recycling at the end of August. Thank you very much. Next, we have resolution receiving bids and awarding construction contract, 2026 Boulevard Ash Tree Removal and Replacement Project. Mr. Love, this is your topic.
Yes, Mayor and Council, it seems like we're always coming back to you with EAB, and tonight, as you know, the emerald ash borer has significantly impacted ash trees throughout Maplewood and throughout the region. This project continues the city's EAB management work. Our 2011 tree inventory, as a reminder, identified roughly about 2,100 ash trees on active areas of city land or on our city public right-of-ways. We've removed roughly 1,700 trees. That was done through either work by our Public Works crews, grant projects, or also our street projects. So as we worked on this project, we reviewed the remaining inventory, and we actually found that a number of trees had already been removed by the property owners that were remaining left untouched. This actually left us with only 84 to remove as part of this project. So because this was fewer removals than what we originally anticipated, we worked with Minnesota DNR to try to maximize the grant by expanding the project to include the grinding of 59 tree stumps that our Public Works crews removed during the winter because they were hazard trees. And so that was eligible for this grant. Our one climate adapted replacement tree will be planted at each removal location as well as each stump grinding location. So we'll be planting 143 new trees as part of this project, and all disturbed areas will be restored. We did receive 6 valid bids. Hoffman and McNamara Company submitted the low bid at $355,368. Of that, roughly $272,000 covers the cost for the removals, the stump grinding, restoration, and planting of the full trees. This will be funded initially by the Street Revitalization Fund. We pay up front with that, and then we're refunded that money by the grant. The grant does require a 3-year maintenance agreement plan. That is not grant eligible, and that represents the other roughly $79,000 of the proposal. Work's anticipated, I should add that that's being funded through the Street Revitalization Fund as well. Work is anticipated to begin on or after August 3rd. Staff will keep affected property owners informed throughout the project. And staff does recommend approving the resolution, receiving bids, and awarding the contract to Hoffman and McNamara Company. And I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Love? I have to say, Mr. Love, that you and your department, your team has done an amazing job. You know, when I think back to 15 years and the fact that you've taken out, what is it, over 70, almost 1,800 ash trees. We've had some pretty mild winters, and I know you've been very busy even during the winter, but that is really pretty impressive to get us into this position. Council members, would someone like to make the motion?
I move to approve the attached resolution receiving bids and awarding a construction contract for the 2026 Boulevard Ash Tree Removal and Replacement Project, City Project 2607, to Hoffman and McNamara Company.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Villavicencio. The motion is written in our packet. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Mr. Love, what are you going to do when there's no more EAB trees?
Yeah.
Mayor and Council, I'm sure there'll be another tree issue that comes up eventually. So at least we're well prepared for how to manage it.
Absolutely. And it certainly goes to the adage that, you know, eating the elephant one bite at a time, that we've gotten ourselves to this point, which is really pretty impressive. So thank you for that. We have one more agenda items, bids and awarding a construction contract for the Public Works Yard Improvement. Mr. Love, this is yours too.
Yes, Mayor and Council. So roughly about 80% of the Public Works yard driving area is gravel, and about 20% of it is currently paved. So the gravel surface, as you can imagine, when it's dry, it generates dust that gets into the garage bays, the mechanic workshop areas, and when wet, it gets tracked into the garage and onto paved surfaces and can run off into our stormwater pretreatment pond for the yard area. This proposed project will pave roughly 23% of the yard, and the big thing that it'll do is it'll complete a loop that is through the building and around the yard itself. This is where most vehicle traffic currently travels at. It'll also include the installation of concrete curb and gutter along portions of it, and build concrete pads for material and equipment storage. The result will be less dust, less sediment tracking, and improved working conditions for our mechanics. We did receive 6 valid bids. Bituminous Roadways submitted the low bid at $275,652.30, so roughly $18,800 or 6% below the engineer's estimate. The 2026-2030 CIP included $350,000 for these improvements, so it's well within that range and is funded through the Street Revitalization Fund. Work is anticipated to begin on or after August 3rd and be completed by the end of September. Staff will notify, we have a couple adjacent property owners that will notify prior to the start of the project. Staff recommends approving the resolution, receiving bids, and awarding the contract to Bituminous Roadways, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Love? Seeing none, would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve the attached resolution, receiving bids and awarding a construction contract with the Public Works Yard Improvements City Project 20-9 to Bituminous Roadways, Inc.
Second.
Moved by Lee, seconded by Juniman. The motion is written in our packet. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, council members. We have worked through our agenda and done the very important work of the city. And with that, we are adjourned.
Do you have Mark Coles for the